Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. And thank you for attending this morning's webinar, How to Simply Manage Modeling Information. Today's presentation is special because it will not be given by Newforma employees, aka me, but rather from a few Newforma customers at HVG Design, Jason Fox and Tom Wilkins. My name is Brian Gadati. I'm a Customer Success Manager at Newforma, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. A few quick overhead items to mention before we begin. This session will be recorded and placed on our website after this webinar is over for everyone to be able to view on demand. Also, if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the questions pane in the GoToWebinar window, and I will answer any questions I can during the presentation. There will also be time set aside at the end, about 10-15 minutes, to allow Jason and Tim to respond to any questions as well. So without further delay, I'll welcome Tim and Jason to the Newforma monthly webinar stage. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for asking us to do this. I know we find it helpful to hear other customers and experiences, and so we'll start. I'm Jason Fox. I'm a contract administration field rep. I've been with the firm. This is my 7th year, and I'll let Tom.
Yeah, and this is Tom Wilkins. I've been here 10 years. I manage the Revit implementations as well as the Newforma project implementations.
And so I'm a field rep, and really I got involved because when I first arrived at the firm, we used Newforma, but we really didn't. We just barely touched on what Newforma could do as far as managing all of our electronic files as a database. And so I started really looking at ways it could help us. Mainly, it's starting out in the CA phase, and found that there was many opportunities. So we just ran with it. So Tom and I have been working pretty closely on constantly, upgrading our training and coming up with new ideas and ways to make us more efficient and accurate. So first, I'll start with a little bit about our firm to give you some context. So we are a national practice of 120 professionals. We have offices in Memphis and San Diego. We deliver integrated architecture and interior design to the national hospitality and entertainment industry. And so this year, we're celebrating our 40th year in practice. And over the years, we have built a focused specialty in hotel design, resort destinations, and gaming and entertainment design, with diverse clients representing Native American nations and numerous commercial hospitality and gaming companies. We currently rank 3rd nationally in hospitality and entertainment design. And these are some shots of some past projects, but most of our projects are complex, they're large scale, requires a lot of coordination, and almost all of them are fast track projects with multiple work packages. As we're still designing many times as the construction is going on. So many of you are probably very familiar with that and the challenges that presents. So one of the things that was already in place when I arrived is we have a well-defined CA structure. The way we are structured, we have, of course, a project manager. Then each team has a project manager, a project architect. We have a QA/QC department. We have a code department, and all of those roles are well defined. And basically, as the projects go into construction, then that's where myself, and then we have a CA administrator coordinator who basically expedites everything that we receive and send out of the office. So everything that we receive and send out goes through the CA department as a kind of a final checks and balance. And so I was supposed to go to this slide next, so I'm not real good with the PowerPoint. So a lot of, the firm I worked for prior to HBG, the project architect kind of handled all of this. So we really had a need to manage everything that's coming in and out of the office, and it's working really well. So we also use Newformer Project Center to manage all of our files. It points to all of our folders. Like I said earlier, everything we receive and send out, we run through the Newformer Project Center. And it's a little bit of the highlights of what we use every day. We use document control to manage all the contract documents. We don't put anything in document control, which is the activity in Newformer Project Center. We only put signed, sealed for construction documents in document control. We use the RFI and submittal workflow, which is very, very helpful to us with being able to set reminders and staying on track of all these time-sensitive items. We file all of our project email in Newformer Project Center. And then that leads us to today's topic, is the Project Center Revit connector. We currently use that primarily for our batch plotting and spatial index, or spaces in the project. So we faced a lot of challenges, and primarily on today's topic, we were constantly receiving, let's start with drawings. We would constantly receive drawings with the wrong revision number if it was an ASI or some sort of revision to a work package. And we also had issues where even if the revision number was listed correctly on the drawings, our file naming was very inconsistent between our consultants and even in-house within our own firm. So we really needed a solution to standardize our file naming and be also as accurate as possible with the revision numbers, so that we didn't make mistakes issuing drawings with the wrong revision number posted. Now, some of this, we really didn't, this all came to head when our clients were really getting frustrated because they would receive file transfers from us where they would download locally and dump in a project folder. And when the end user would get these files were all out of order. They couldn't find certain drawings, but then if they scrolled all the way down in the project folder, they would find it. So that was the basic light bulb came on in our head that we got to figure this out, because every project it was becoming the same complaint. The other thing that we had struggled with is our office is growing, and we're training new employees, people that we have, people that have some punch list experience, some that don't, some that have a lot of experience, but they don't know the way we typically record and issue our punch lists. So what we needed to do was come up with a more efficient and accurate way to record our punch list items. And starting with that Newformer has the Capture mobile app as well as the Tasks mobile app. So we looked into to see how that could really help us. And we found out that was a huge time saver. And also it was a time saver. It was accurate. It allowed us to have drop-down lists for typical items that we don't want to have to write over and over and over again. It made the whole punch list recording effort easier for everybody involved, versus the old way we would print out floor plans and make checklists. In every room we were in, we were writing over and over again. We'd go to the copy machine, make copies, we'd scan it in and send it out. Now we're all working together with our own devices. We have typical custom drop-down lists that we can just use. And it also keeps us, for instance, if we have a new, maybe a not so seasoned associate that's helping us, they may not understand how we want to report, or I guess record a punch list item. So we don't want to tell a contractor to move a door. We want to say the door's in the wrong location. So by having this drop-down list, it allows us to be more consistent in how we're recording the punch list items. So this is where Tom's going to take over, and this is the tie-in to the Revit connector and the benefits.
Okay, so the problem that we faced with file naming was pretty significant, and so we wanted to, the only way to get everybody on board is to kind of automate that. And we did, Nuforma has the ability to automate it in the Revit connector. So right within Revit, it connects in and it pulls data. So I'm going to show you real quick how that works. In addition, Jason mentioned the punch list uses the spatial index. So Revit contains all your room data automatically based on as you design, and so it can be pulled and populate into the Nuforma database. So we'll show you how that works also. So I'm going to jump out of that, and we'll jump over here. And in Revit, now this is just a sample project, but I think it'll give you a good workflow opportunity to see how it works. So first of all, if you look at the top, you've got this Nuforma add-in up here. And so what we'll do, I'm going to start just by doing some batch plotting. And over here, first thing we do, we kind of register the project to Nuforma within Revit. And once it sees it, which it already does, then we've got these simple tools up top. So I can jump right into document control and go to publish sheets. And when I do that, it pops up and it goes out and it looks at all the sheets that are available in Revit. And you know, I've got the ability to do some filtering on those sheets. So, but before I do that, maybe I'll make and show you how you can make your own sheet sets in Revit. So real quick, if you go up and you go to your print function, in here you can set up selected views and sheets inside of Revit, and you can make your own. So you can see here I've made a set one, and here's a mechanical and plumbing one. So you can create different selections of sheets that are part of the package. Okay, so that plugin with Nuforma, which is what I'm going to go back to now. If I go to Publish Sheets, I can come over here in the sheet sets and filter on that. So there they are. It reads it directly. I can grab my mechanical and plumbing and filter on that. And so now all I'm going to see is my mechanical and plumbing set. Okay, and you know, you can exclude other sets or include. So you can just do different ways of filtering here. Anyway, once you get it, you can select it. And maybe for this presentation, I only want to do those two sheets, just to make it quick. So you can select them all or be selective what you wish. These setups come directly from Revit, so you can use a Revit setup. And this hyperlinking will connect all the tags within your sheets. So for sections, elevations, callouts, they'll all be hyperlinked within the PDF file. And over here, this is where we're going to store it. So before we get going, I may want to jump into my published settings and show you how we kind of set that up. First of all, this is our PDF file location. So this is going to match what we've got over here. And I've told it to create a separate subfolder for each publish so that if I do multiple publishes, they won't overwrite. And then coming on down here, the file name. Now we have our own file naming standard, which this is what we use. And you can see here, if I can get this set up, that we start with a project acronym. So it's a 3 or 4 letter acronym that represents the project. And you can see over here in the individual file name that we set up in this connector that we've set that up for that project, space, And then this is a parameter that's pulled from Revit, the sheet number. So you can see in the drop down here, the different Revit parameters you can pull in and make automated in your file naming. So back to the list here. So we've got our sheet number, Revit parameter, space again. And then we've got a manual bracket that separates our revision numbers. But the revision number also is a parameter inside of Revit. So that's automated. Then we got another space, drawing name, again, another parameter in Revit, space, and then our issue. And the issue would be maybe the package name or acronym that we've set up. So here, maybe work package 01. So once you've set this up, this is a sticky file name, which means it stays throughout the use of your Revit in your project until you decide to change it for your next project. So you really only set this up once. Once it's set, you're good to go. And that's the setup. And then in your page setup, this is just standard Revit page setup. So, you know, we've got our scale set within our sheets. Everything's good to go for Arch 1 and our size and our setup name that we're using within Revit. So once you've done all that, you've selected your sheets. I'm going to tell it to open up a Windows Explorer and show me the files when it's done.
So go back to that real quick, because I just want to
Go back to
the publish settings.
Yep.
So that file name setup right there, by standardizing the way we name our drawing files and pulling in the Revit parameters, this alone has completely eliminated, at least internally. Now we have consultants that don't always use Newforma, so we still have issues that we're dealing with consultants, but in-house we almost never have any mistakes on the sheet number, the name, and definitely not the revision number because of the Revit parameter. And this right here has been a huge success for us.
And once this is set, it's fully automated, okay, which was our goal. So in here, we've got our sheets. We're ready to go. I'm going to pop open a window when it's done, and I can go ahead and tell it to publish. And it's going to run here. You could have had 100, 150 sheets in there. So we actually have a plot station set up that'll run it, because as most Revit users know, once you go to plot, it kind of hangs up, ties up your Revit. So we set up a plot station, and this just runs it. And when it's done, people can go check the folder and verify it. So it's finished it. It created our files, and here they are, and they're named exactly the way we need them named. And we're good to go. That could have been 150 sheets. So that's the solution that Newforma brought us for batch plotting and file naming. And we use it for all our projects. So the next issue that we had was what Jason referred to as Spatial Index. And that's just a fancy word for room data. So what we can do for that is we've got a Spatial Index pull down here, and we can go to synchronize spaces. And in that, I've gone out to my settings and decided I want to go ahead and pull in from the Revit parameters the area and include that within my Spatial Index data that gets populated into my Newforma project. So if I see here area, I've added it down here, just drag and drop. And so now it's going to map the Revit area to the Newforma area field. Okay, so once I've done that, you see here it's gone out and it's found all my sheets. I'm sorry, all my rooms that are going to be pulled in. And I don't want to include these two areas. I just want the rooms. So I can uncheck those. But you see here, it's all the rooms. There's a couple unchecked because those were deleted. But as we know in Revit, it keeps the room data in the project. But it's smart enough to know not to check it and include it if it's not tied to a room object. So once we've done that, we can hit synchronize. And it's gone ahead and done it. So synchronizes is complete. There's no errors or warnings. So I can get out of that. I can jump back to my Revit project. I can do a refresh. Oh, I got to get rid of that. Yeah, we were filtered on that. And there's all my data. Okay, now this was a real small sample project, so it's not a lot of data. But we can see that it has brought in all our rooms. It included the room number, the name. There's the area I brought in, the Revit parameters, so it pulled the square footage area. And we could have had other fields in here. But so that automated of populating this room data now is available to Jason in the Capture app and all the field applications that he needs out in the field. And it's accurate, it's up to date based on when I ran it, and we're good to go. So those two solutions are automated, and that's how it works.
So let me get back into the PowerPoint. All right, so.
Oh, you got it backwards.
Yeah, so let me, no, we're good.
That's what they're seeing.
Yeah. All right, everybody can see my screen. Are we okay?
Yep, if you go up to display settings really quick.
Yep.
Up at the top,
Yep.
and then hit switch, it'll be full screen for us. Yep.
There you go. Just
All right,
Perfect.
sorry about that.
No, you're good. Thank you very much.
So Tom showed you our file naming structure. This is, everyone has their own methods, and this was debated for I don't know how many hours between a handful of people at the firm. And we had issues where team members we have a lot of clients where we do repeat work. So we might have a casino, let's say, where we built the casino, and then 2 years later we're renovating a section of it. We're adding maybe a keno room or a poker room. So we had some issues where people were dumping files into the wrong project, not really knowing it. So that's why we are using this 3-digit acronym in front of the sheet number. And then we debated over several ways of how to show a revision number in the file name. And we used to have an R1, R2. If it was a new sheet, it was just blank. But that didn't really work with our Revit parameters in this connector that we're using. So this is not a perfect solution, but it's working for us really well. We're using basically open and closed brackets. So if it's an open and closed bracket with nothing in it, it looks kind of silly, but it's a new sheet. But what that allowed us to do now, that anything you see with a 1 in it, it's an automated Revit parameter from that connector. And so again, it's all but eliminated the errors with us issuing drawings with the wrong revision number. And then in that sheet setup at the very end, we will put in brackets, and this is a manual entry, but it's a one-time setup, so it's really hard to mess that up, which is the work package 4 or ASI 4.002. And then that way, when you are, let me get to an example of that real quick. Bear with me. Sorry, thought I had this up. So this is an example of a folder where an owner or one of our clients, they may take all of our drawings and dump them into one folder. They don't want to have multiple folders. And the benefit here is the way, again, it stacks the drawings in order and with revisions. And later on, as you have, it could be 100 ASIs, I could search by just my 4.002 sheets, and now I'm going to get a list of those pretty quickly. It's just another way to stay organized. and also if you want to bundle them up and create one bundle of maybe your architectural drawings. So that's just one benefit. But the primary thing was we took out as much of the human error as possible. All right. Let me do this again, and I'm going to get to the capture app. So that's the file naming. Do I need to switch the view again?
Nope, you're all set.
All
Looks
right.
great.
Now, so the spatial index or rooms and spaces, many of our projects, they could have, you know, over 1,000 spaces in them easily. So what we're trying to do is avoid that preliminary setup of creating, you know, our punch list forms and different ways that we're going to go out and tackle a punch list. We may have 100 rooms to punch and be given a day's notice, and they need it the next day. So we don't have much time to really set this up. So what I typically will do when a project goes into CA, I will go to Tom and say, hey, can you go ahead and generate all the spaces in my project? And I'm going to start organizing the spaces and making sure there's not, you know, maybe there's some spaces that shouldn't be in there, or it could be a huge, say, ballroom in a hotel where I want more than one room for that ballroom. Because if I say there's an issue with a light, I want to be able to say it's in the north side of this ballroom. So sometimes if the ballroom was space 100, I may say it's 100.1 north, 100.2 center, all the way down, or I might even do elevations so that it's the north elevation. So there is some setup, but having that generated right out of the model saves hours and hours of my time, to where I can really focus on what is the work plan. I can also go in and give a very accurate count. If the owner says you're going to do area A, I can pull up area A and I can say, well, that's 150 rooms. I'm going to need 4 people. We're only going to have a day. So, you know, and now I'm booking flights for 4 people to some casino or hotel across the country. So this spatial index was very, very helpful and time saving. Now, the capture app, if you're familiar with it, then I'm telling you what you already know. But one of the benefits is I can record, a lot of times it's a typical punch item that I'm seeing in all these rooms. And sometimes I'll say, well, this is just a typical comment. But some owners, they want that typical comment in every room. So the beauty of the capture app is I can record that one time. And so on screen, you can see on the right is my test punch list item. And just say that's a typical item. And I would write a description and I might attach a photo. But I can use the spaces to tag it to multiple rooms in one step and hit save, and they're instantly put in to my punch list in each of those spaces. So again, this is a huge time saver and a benefit to us. And it all started with the Revit connector. Now, I was going to show you one other thing. So when you're in Project Center, so I'm going to switch to another test project. I will often, 2 or 3 years later, get a call, and let's say we just built a big entertainment complex, and now they want to add a new exhibit hall. And this just happened to me last week. And the project architect asked me, do you remember what tile we specified for the public restrooms? And so I looked in the submittals, and it was actually a job that all the submittals were handled hard copy. So they're currently stored offsite in a storage unit. So I didn't have immediate access to that. But what I could do is go into either the Spatial Index and find that room. Okay, and I found photos of all my field report items from the field notes. So in Capture, the Capture mobile app, you can record field notes and you can record punch list items and action items. So I can quickly find that room and find anything that I had a field note or a punch list item, and now I've, this list is reduced. And if I knew it was room 118, well, here's the restroom, and here are all the related items. So if I knew it was this is a bad example probably, or no, it's not. So here's field note. So I could go find that in my field note log. And if I had a picture, which I don't think I do on this one, it would be found right here. So this is another benefit of it's just another way to keep everything organized in a central location that anyone with a license within our firm has access to. And that's basically what my demo. So I'm going to put it back to you guys at Newforma.
Oh, you got
If I could.
slide. You got one more end slide.
Yeah. Let me okay.
Well, thank you guys. That was fantastic. Something really quickly to add on to. I think that's a great point about everything kind of being connected to each other. I call that kind of the web of information, right? Everything is related to everything else on a project, and usually that's kind of a disconnect, right? What was that field note that was associated with that RFI that I took 4 years ago, right? I can't find it, but in Newforma, everything's automatically connected together, so I can kind of follow that bread trail or that breadcrumb trail, if you will, and find exactly what I'm looking for. So fantastic point. I want to open it up to any questions. If anyone out there has any questions for either Jason or Tom, more than happy to take any of those. But while we wait for questions to come in, I really want to take a minute today to thank Tom and Jason, for their time, not only this morning in the webinar, but in the last few weeks preparing for this morning's conversation. I know better than most that you don't just come in and take 5 minutes and make this PowerPoint and practice everything. So I really appreciate the work that you guys did to make this morning's conversation successful webinar that it was. If anyone out there has any questions, or if you want to learn more about either what you saw today around BIM and our Revit connector, or Newforma Project Center in general, please feel free to reach out. We have a special email address set up that you can reach out to. That's answers@newforma.com. You will also get an email at the end of this webinar just thanking you for attending. If you want to reply to that, we can capture that as well and grab that information and reach out. If there aren't any questions, again, I want to thank Jason and Tom for this morning's presentation, and we will see all of you at next month's webinar. Thank you all.